and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett. If you haven't been listening lately, things have changed in the recent past, and in addition to providing you with entertaining photography-related podcast episodes, I'm currently on a series of adventures with the crew of the starship Fibonacci. At the moment, F2.0, Rule of 3 RDS, and I are being chased by the local space constable, Rascal D. Miles Davis.
I'm informing voicemail.
All because we borrowed a relic.
It belongs in a museum.
Yes, you said that several times. It wasn't a museum. We're returning it to its rightful owners. Rula, who is our guest on the podcast today?
Chris Wallace.
Oh yes, Chris recently posted an amazing Lego wedding photo shoot that went viral and has had thousands and thousands of shares. He also followed it up with a honeymoon shoot that was equally as amazing. Even if you don't like Legos, you can sit back and luxuriate in Chris's accent. All of that coming up after this short message.
Back here.
Yeah, the fuzz is getting close. We can get back to the ship faster if we jump this gorge. Hit it, Rula.
Vroom, vroom.
Here we go.
Hold on tight.
Okay, so we're just sort of hanging here.
There's trouble, and then there's trouble. And the trouble with some trouble is, at first, it don't look like trouble.
Oh yeah, I forgot this moon has fairly low gravity. I think we're going to be up here for a while.
Just some good old boys.
Hey Doc, what's up?
Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news.
Give me the bad news first.
Well, your website is incredibly slow and it's susceptible to being hacked.
I had a suspicion that was the case. What do you prescribe?
Use SiteGround as your website host. They offer fast, secure hosting for small and medium-sized websites, as well as managed WordPress hosting.
Can I pick up SiteGround at my local pharmacy?
No. You'll need to go to nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/SiteGround to find out more.
Thanks. So, what's the good news?
You have 6 months to live.
That's good news?
Better than a week.
Well, you've got me there, Doc. Hello, and welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I am here today with Chris Wallace, UK wedding photographer. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And recently you've been getting a lot of attention because of these Lego photo shoots that you've been doing and posting on the internet. We've shared a couple of them now on the Nerdy Photographer. What inspired you to do these Lego photo shoots?
So I'm a wedding photographer. I have a wedding photographer business, and overnight it literally stopped. So we did a wedding one week, the next week the wedding cancelled, and then I don't think the next one's for months. So I wanted to do something to keep people interacting with the website and to let people know we're still here. So after about a week of no visits to my website, on my computer in front of me, I have a Lego model of me that a bride bought me a few years ago. So I look at it every day, and I've always wanted to take some photos with it, and I've never had the time. So I went into the attic, and I got my 25-year-old Lego down that I had from when I was a child. I ordered a bride and groom off Amazon, which took a few days to come. And I made up all the sets while I was waiting for the bride and groom. I knew what I wanted to do. Going to so many weddings, you have the set photos that I suppose you do at every wedding, the cliche kind of photos. So
that was one of the things I noticed was that there's so many just like cliche, I mean, not cliche bad, but like stereotypical wedding shots that you did like such an amazing job with, like, because they look like really good wedding photos.
Well, that's it. So, I mean, yeah, as you say, there's always the same kind of or similar kind of photos you take at every wedding. So I wanted to capture that, but in the Lego, so everybody could relate to it and everybody would enjoy it. So I had the sets made before the bride and groom came. So I did like the ceremony room, and I did the dance floor, and the reception room. So that was all ready. So I kind of planned it before they arrived. And then when the bride and groom arrived from Amazon, I just started taking the photos. So it took about 2 days to set everything up and to take the photos, and then another day to write the blog and then send it out.
Nice. Yeah. And one of the things I was curious about, there were some things in there that I thought, like, was the wedding dress, what is that? Did you make that yourself? Like, because there were things I was like, that doesn't look like it's like standard Lego material. Like that. So there were some things I was like, this is pretty awesome, but like, where would you get that?
So the wedding dress the bride wore, that's just standard. That came with the model.
Right.
The one
that's hanging up
is
the hang.
I printed it off. I just Googled wedding dress and printed it off, and then cut it out. And the same with the groom's suit. So it's just photo paper that I just cut out. I think if you notice on the groom's suit, I think I cut a sleeve too much. There's a bit of the sleeve. So so it was just the first thing I came up on Google. I think when you type in cartoon wedding dress.
Nice. So have you, like, I mean, you said you saw this, you had this Lego miniature of yourself on your desk. I mean, have you ever done like miniature photography before?
I haven't, no. I've always wanted to. I've seen other people do it. I've always wanted to do something, but as I say, I've never had the time or the thing to actually go out and do it. But now I have done it. It's like a bug, and you just want to do it more. Like, it's so addictive. And you have so many ideas. Sure. The more you do it, the more ideas you get. So hopefully there'll be a few things to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I did an entire animated episode of the podcast. I mean, I would never have time to do that. We're all finding ourselves with a lot of time on our hands. But now it's like I did that once, and I'm like, oh, I've got like 500 ideas for like things I want to do in the future. Having this much time to sort of sit and mull over creative ideas, I think is honestly, it might be refreshing for a lot of people. And even though it's a stressful situation and people are worried about money and everything like that, but from a creative standpoint, it like gives us a chance to sort of step back, and who knows, maybe this will lead to better wedding photos in the future. But I think we're all getting a chance to sort of like take a breath and sort of like flex our creative muscles in our mind, as opposed to just like going out and shooting all the time.
Exactly. And I think some of the things that I tried with this wedding that I wouldn't necessarily normally do, and even though it's Lego opposed to real people, the concept's the same. The lighting you have to think about.
Though they're much shorter than normal sized people.
Yeah, just smaller lights. So you can relate that to weddings. So I've learned quite a bit, just stepping back and trying something different, that when I eventually do start doing weddings again, I can put those techniques into those weddings coming up.
I smell a Creative Live episode coming up. You know, like you're gonna have your Creative Live, like teaching people wedding photography using Legos.
Using Lego, and then and I can put them side by side when I take the ones, the real people. I'll put them side by side with the Lego ones to show. Yeah,
absolutely. It's all about scaling up.
Exactly. Yes, scaling up.
So you did the wedding shoot, and then you just released, well, at the time we're recording this, it's probably going to be like a week and a half after we're recording this that this comes out, but you just released the honeymoon shoot for the couple. Did you immediately get to work on that after the wedding shoot?
Not immediately. My wife made me tidy away on my Lego. So like a week after, I think I started shooting the honeymoon photos, which was a little bit harder than it was to do the wedding photos, because with the wedding I knew what photos I wanted, and I wanted to make it look like a wedding, where a honeymoon is difficult because there's not a standard honeymoon photo, I suppose. So it was just trying to come up with those ideas.
I think of looking at like Instagram influencer photos as kind of like travel.
That's what I did. That's exactly how I did. I Googled honeymoon photos and looked at other people's places where they went around the world, and then decided I wanted to do a camper van and travel. So nice. I bought that off. Luckily, somebody down the road was selling it on Facebook Marketplace, so I collected that, and then we started shooting like a week later.
So get a sense of your process here. Like, do you like sketch out the shots in some way? Like, do you like storyboard this, or before you go out and try to shoot them, or you just jump in and like you just automatically know in your head, this is the shot I want. I'm going to figure it out from there.
So I think with the honeymoon shoot, it took me a week. So every time I had a new idea, I just had it in my head and then just went out and shot it straight away. But the ideas didn't come to me straight away. I'll do one or a couple one day and then leave it a bit. And then the next day, another idea would come to me. But I wouldn't like think about it. I would just have the idea, try something out. Hopefully it worked. If it didn't, there was quite a few photos that I got rid of. That didn't quite work. Because I jumped out, I think if I planned it more, maybe.
Yeah. That's one of the things I think that people don't realize. Like, they're not all, like not all of the ideas are winners, and it's okay to edit things down. I mean, from looking at that's why I think people look at that and look at the photos from these shoots, they might go like, oh man, like these are all so great. Like everything's great. Well, I've done enough shoots where you're trying something different, and they're not every shot is a winner, but you come out with those ones that are just like that hit so hard, and like the ones that you chose are all great.
Exactly. So I think looking at how many photos I took 2,000 photos for the honeymoon shoot.
Jeez. Wow.
I posted 30. So but like one photo would take about 2 or 3 hours to take. Just set it up, and I tried a few different ways to light it and a few different ways to shoot it. The idea is I would start shooting it and then seeing how I could add to it to make it better, and then shooting it, what I can add to it to make it better. Constantly doing that. So once you've done that a few times, a few hours have passed. So hence why I could only do like 1 or 2 photos in a day. And why it took
makes sense. I mean, so, okay, to kind of summarize then, like how long did it take from, coming up with the concept to finishing, being done with editing for each of these shoots?
So with the wedding, that was 3 days altogether, from when I first started building till when I posted the blog. And with the honeymoon, I dragged it out a little bit because I didn't want to post it too close to when I posted the wedding, just to kind of keep people's interest. So that took a week, I think 7 days, when I first started until when I wrote the blog. I don't think I posted it straight away. I think I posted it a few days after, but it took a week to shoot and to write.
So if people have not read the blog post, I highly suggest you go over to Chris's website and actually read the story that goes along with each of the blog posts, because they're fantastic. The writing is really good. I think it makes the shoot even better, like, because it gives you a sense of the personalities, and they're much like, what we try to do as wedding photographers, to put into those like blog posts about weddings, where they like to tell the story of the couple. But you did such a great job, like coming up with a story for these, Lego figurines. Now, did you kind of come up with the story first, or would you do the shoot and you're kind of like, all right, I'm going to fit the story to, the shots that I took afterwards?
So I shot it first. I uploaded the photos to my website. I never even thought about writing anything. And then I knew I had to write something about it. So as I started, you could pick out things that just seemed to be quite funny about it. And then the more I wrote it, I was making myself laugh. Whether that sounds arrogant. So I wrote as much as I could, and then showed it to my wife, who also thought it was funny. Which was a good start, I suppose. But it never was meant to be that funny. It was just, the more I started writing it, the easier it kind of got. So once I'd written it, my wife went over it. My English isn't the best, so writing. So my wife
proofreading.
Yeah, so she proofread it, changed a lot, and then between us, that's what we came up with. For both the same house, for the honeymoon as well, it was the same.
In the honeymoon, I appreciated it because I started looking at it before I went back and read the story. I was looking at the picture like, wait a second, she's blonde. And like the bride is blonde. And I was like, wait. And I went back and read. I'm like, yep, he addresses it. he put it in the story, like the hair color change and like the longer hair on the groom were all like in there. And obviously it's because of practical reasons for shooting. Like they're not changing outfits makes it a little easier for you. And like all these things, like immediately I, understand as a photographer why you're doing it, because it's going to take those little tiny changes, you're making. It makes more time for yourself, but at the same time you wrote it into the story, which I thought was, a really good way
to relate it to what we're going through now. So during lockdown, we have to cut our hair at home, which nobody can. And in England, nowhere is selling. Everyone's selling out of hair dye, so dyeing their hair at home. So we try to relate it to that as much as possible. So.
I don't know. I just buzz my own hair off. That's so. I don't.
Me too.
And I learned how to cut my wife's hair. I had actually a hairdresser friend from wedding that I know from like the wedding industry. Like we did a FaceTime call, and she taught me how to cut my wife's hair. So that was the most nerve-wracking thing I think I've ever done. I was afraid. I was so afraid.
My wife not let me go near her hair. She did mine. Yeah. She did a good job of mine.
So what has the reaction been like for you for these shoots? You mentioned that you're getting people like contacting you about doing their weddings when this is all over. But like just generally, like what has the reaction been?
It's been crazy. So I only initially wanted it to be for the people that liked my Facebook page or my previous clients, just to have a laugh. So it's something that's a bit more positive than all the negativity out there. And then someone said to submit it to a like an online media like circuit. So I think it was Board Panda, I think was the first one. And it got something like 4,000 shares and 10,000 likes or something. After that, I was contacted by every other blog out there. I was contacted by, I've been on the radio, obviously yourself. Yeah. And it's been shared in countries on blogs. I think it's about 90 countries, I think was the last count. Just either just on the blogs, on the websites, or actually in the newspapers, which is just crazy. So I think the last count, when we added the likes and things, and like the views and what people have told me they've had, is about 300 million views, which is
that's pretty fantastic, man.
Which I never expected that, to be honest. So,
well, sometimes you just like, and that's the thing. It's we do things. I mean, that we don't necessarily expect are going to be, a big deal, and then it turns into something, and that's congratulations to you. I love the photos. This is the reason why I'm sharing the pictures and, having you on the podcast. I think they're brilliant. I mean, they're awesome. And you mentioned in the honeymoon shoot that the couple didn't actually go anywhere. Was there some sort of feedback that people thought you were leaving the house to take the pictures? Because you've had a lot of people like seeing this, like
nobody actually said it, but I didn't
wanted
want
to head it off with the pass.
I didn't want anybody to think that we'd been out taking these photos anywhere other than the garden. So,
and the drone shot. The drone shot was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was the furthest the photo that left my garden, I suppose. But I was going to try to do it with the honeymoon one as well. I tried to put a plane underneath my drone and then fly that so it looked like they was flying in on a plane. But that didn't work out so well. So
so my wife wants to know what your wife thinks of these shoots. Mostly you digging up your backyard and
So initially she said, "You're not getting that Lego out of the attic. It's been in there for 25 years. You're not getting that down." I got it down when she was out, I think. So I just started creating things without her knowing in my office. But she's been okay. When she saw the reaction and what people thought about it, she's been on board then. So she's let me do whatever I wanted. As long as I tidy up at the end of the day and the house is clean before we go to bed, I can pretty much get away with whatever I want.
as long as you're cleaning up after yourself.
As long as I clean up after myself, that's the only rule.
So, are there plans for what are the plans to do next? Have you got anything on? Do you want to share anything with us as far as like what your ideas are, or would you like our listeners to share their thoughts with you, like maybe what you should do
if
next?
people want to share their thoughts, that would be great. The next thing I think I'm going to do, it turns out, which I didn't realize before I started shooting this, taking photos of Lego is an actual thing. It is quite a big business. So I've started my own Instagram page, which is the.Lego photographer. And I've ordered a few more sets. I'm going to get the Ghostbusters the X1, and I'm going to get some Star Wars, and I'm going to try and recreate some movie scenes again around the house using things, and just try and build up a following on Instagram and see where it leads.
Yeah, it might be a new avenue for you. Like I appreciate the Ghostbusters. First, my dog's middle name is Gozer, so it's
that's amazing.
My personal favorite out here. I look forward to seeing what you do next, and we're always happy to share anything that you want to share with us.
Thank you.
And before we head out, hey, F 2.0, why don't you tell the audience what time it is?
And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death.
Hey, Rula, what's on tap for the useless information this week?
Lint.
Useless information for this episode. Did you know that the ball of lint that you find in your pocket actually has a name? It's called a Gnurr. Gnurr. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of that, no.
You learn something new every day. Make a note of that.
I'll make a note. I'll write that
so
down.
You can use them as tumbleweeds in your next your next Lego shoot. Have some Gnurrs rolling by. Just about to land on the other side of the gorge. Everybody brace for impact.
Keep your hands to yourself.
I get no respect. No respect, I tell you.
And we're down. And it appears Rascal has crashed into some moon rocks. F 2.0, roll the credits while I get us off this rock.
Thank you to Chris Wallace for being on this episode. You can view more of Chris's work at Carpe Diem Photography Cheshire.co.uk or on Instagram at Carpe Diem _photography1 or the .Lego photographer. You can find those links on our website as well, in case you find it hard to get all of that information while listening to a podcast. As always, Ruler 3RDS was played by the vivacious Jen Clark. Jen is a regular at Go Comedy, performing with such groups as JK, Cougar Snafu, and Magna Carta. Please be sure to subscribe and leave a review for the Nerdy Photographer podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow along on Instagram at The Nerdy Photo.
Thanks, F 2.0.
Thank you.
We're ready to launch. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and stay nerdy.
I'm gonna get you, nerdy photographer.
No, you won't.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heartbeat beating about? You better listen.